I yield myself 5 minutes for a few comments and questions, and I actually am going to yield to Ms. Greene but I want to ask a couple of questions. As I understand it from looking at your bill, this just publishes the numbers, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
So I'll reclaim my time. Does it report any protocols on how these gentlemen or women that are on this list are questioned? No?
No.
Is it any protocols on how they're identified and detained?
No.
Okay. So it just publishes the pure numbers. Is that correct? Just making sure.
Just tells the American people how many SIAs have come into the country.
Does it report their names?
No.
Okay. All right. I yield. Is there anybody else who wants to make a comment about this? Mr. Goldman, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think there's actually a lot of ground for common bipartisan effort here. I can assure all of my colleagues that the immigration issue is top of mind, that Democrats are very concerned about whether there are convicted criminals who remain in this country, and because of our immigration laws, including the fact that a country has to be willing to take someone who is removed in order for that person to be removed. There certainly are lots of things that we can address here. Our national security is at a very perilous point. The fact that we are seeing such egregious breaches of security clearance, classified information that warrant members of governments of other countries to start to say they're going to reevaluate their intelligence sharing with us should give everyone in this room serious pause about how we are tackling national security. Now, publishing the number of SIAs, it may be nice for to talk about. It may certainly, the transparency is something that we support, but it does nothing to ultimately secure our homeland. And I wish we were spending a lot more time on efforts to shore up our classified information, to shore up our relationships with our allies who provide us with intelligence information so that we can stop a terrorist attack, a real terrorist attack, not a terrorist attack based on alleged accusations of terrorism by members of this committee or members of the White House. You see, you aren't actually a terrorist just because a member of Congress from Georgia says you are. There actually has to be evidence provided to support that. That's how our country works. That's how due process works. That's how the rule of law works. Is the president doesn't get to determine that someone is or is not a terrorist. Members of Congress don't get to determine whether someone is or is not a terrorist. But that does not seem to be something that some of my colleagues understand. There's a reason why we have due process in this country, and you may think that due process is not warranted for someone who is not a citizen of this country, or you may think that due process is not warranted for someone who's accused of being a member of a Venezuelan gang or terrorist organization. But once you start going down that slippery slope, then our basic foundations of due process come undone entirely. And I don't understand what the problem is with allowing a neutral arbiter based on evidence to determine whether someone is a terrorist or not. What is the objection that this administration has to presenting evidence to a judge to say, this is the evidence that this person is a member of a particular cartel? What we've seen in one particular case that is top of mind right now is that there's a confidential informant who has said that someone was a member of foreign gang, a foreign terrorist organization now designated, and that he wore a particular type of baseball hat. There's no corroboration. There's nothing else to corroborate or to confirm what that confidential informant says, at least that has been presented. And I know there are some lawyers on the other side, some former prosecutors on the other side of the aisle who, like me, would never, ever present to a judge a non-corroborated statement from a confidential informant as the basis for establishing anything. And so we're a little off topic, but I did feel I need to address my colleague from Georgia's comments about all of the alleged terrorists who are there are those who are supporting them to stay in. Nobody is supporting any member of a foreign gang to stay in here. We would just like to make sure that people are adjudicated and determined to be a member of a foreign gang by someone other than the President of the United States or a member of Congress. And I yield back.
The gentleman yields. I now recognize Mr. Guest for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, at this time, I would like to yield as much of my time as she may consume to Ms. Greene.
Thank
The
you.
lady's recognized.
Thank you. I think my colleague across the aisle is very confused and maybe uneducated and uninformed of what a special interest alien is. SIA is a non-U.S. person who is based on an analysis of travel patterns, potentially poses a national security risk to the United States or its interest. Special interest aliens are people from countries identified by the United States government as having conditions that promote or protect terrorism or potentially pose some sort of national security threat to the United States. It's hard for me to fathom that anyone on this committee would be opposed to simply reporting the number of special interest aliens that Homeland, that our great men and women that served as Border Patrol agents, that any of our police, any of our ICE agents happen to detain, and it's just the number. We're just telling the American people how many. That's it.
Would the gentlelady yield for a question?
No, I will not yield. The Department of Homeland Security officials have publicly posted information about special interest aliens in the past, including the current Border Patrol chief and his predecessor. Custom and Border Protection already published similar numbers on its public site. For example, the terrorist screening data set. And just to go further, and this is always an interesting dynamic to me. On our side of the aisle, we trust the American people, and we believe they deserve transparency. They deserved the truth from the federal government, because it is, after all, that we swore an oath to serve the American people. And the American people are the taxpayers that pay all of our paychecks. They pay for this building. They fund this government, even though the government has plunged them into $36 trillion in debt and opened up the borders for the past 4 years and allowed it to be flooded with illegal aliens. And then the Biden administration gave them Social Security numbers. You see, this that we are trying to pass today, and we would love to have your participation. We would enjoy and really would thank you for caring about transparency and providing information to the American people that so deserve it, instead of arguing back and forth and watching you all defend special interest aliens, defend terrorists who have come in our country, and defend dangerous, violent cartels who have been deported out of our country. I know too many people that have been murdered by cartels. I know too many people, and I know their families, and have watched them mourn because they have a family member that was killed by illegal alien crimes or murdered by an illegal alien or a cartel member. This should be a simple conversation. We are all Americans, and we serve this country, not foreign countries. And that should be a simple fact that we can all recognize, not have political disagreements about. Congress, by the way, has previously released information as it relates to special interest aliens through hearings and committee reports, including the October 3rd, 2024 report from the House Judiciary Committee titled The Biden-Harris Border Crisis, at least 1.7 million potential national security threats. DHS has an obligation to the American people to be as transparent as possible. We owe it to the American people to be as transparent as possible. This is not targeting some innocent migrant or someone that is seeking to be a citizen of the United States. We're talking about special interest aliens, potentially terrorists, people who are linked to terrorist organizations, people who share their travel patterns, people that all of us should not want in the United States, and the American people don't want them here either. This isn't giving their name. This isn't telling what country they're from. This isn't giving their address. This isn't saying where they work. This isn't saying anything. It's not showing their picture. It's simply saying how many came across the border each month. It's very simple, Mr. Chairman. I yield back the remainder of my time.